connected me to someone in London called it's a group of human rights lawyers and people they work with people on death row in the United States and also with Guantanamo detainees. So they said, I was describing this thing to someone at Reprieve and kind of stumbling over my language, kind of going, well, you see, we're going to project a person who's sitting in a prison into and speak it, and I realized I'm bad. I'm not making this case. And instead of saying, this very polite, well, thank you so much for your really interesting idea, this person said, tell me more. And so this was Kat Craig, the lead lawyer at Reprieve. So she put me in contact with a man named Mohamed Al-Darani, who was the youngest detainee at Guantanamo. And a guy who had been captured, like most of the people by the Northern Alliance, and sold us for $5,000. And like most of the people in Guantanamo, had nothing to do with this. Nothing. 2% have been charged. The rest had nothing. There were a series of students and go-herders and taxi drivers and journalists who were swept up because they had a story that we needed. We needed Saudis, for example. So this guy was captured when he was 14 and tortured for 7 years in Guantanamo. I had no idea really what the actual story was. So much worse than I thought. When I met him, he's now living in West Africa, he's 27 years old. I was the first American he'd met who wasn't his torturer or his interrogator. So it was a long time trying to talk to each other, and trust each other, of course, because they wanted to tell his story. And, I wanted to make a frame for him to tell his story. So anyway, basically we had done everything to this guy, broken his back, broken his head, cut him everywhere. He still won't see a doctor because American doctors were all at all his torture sessions. And so it was very intense hearing this story. I actually had to get my own PTSD treatment after this because it was not what I expected. I am interested in stories. Basically, I'm a short story writer, whether they end up as songs or films or things. That's what I do. So looking at his story versus the official story was what I was interested in doing, sliding those things like this. And of course, then of course it comes down to slicing language. And when we were able to do any of this as Americans, we immediately declared all of the people in Guantanamo non-persons. And so we had no responsibility to them in any way. So we could do what we liked with it. And then it went on from there. So for example, I was not officially able to say something like American doctors were at all his torture sessions. I had to say things like the behavioral science consultancy team was in attendance at all the sessions with the detainees. So also there were a huge number of suicides at Guantanamo, huge number. And suddenly, boom, that's over. There are no more. However, there are a huge number of manipulative, self-injurious behaviors resulting in death. Many more of those, despite. So anyway, I'm a person who loves language, and so as I watch it being used in all of these forms, it's completely fascinating to me. So we took these stories, we did this. We built a studio in West Africa last summer, and then we built a cast of this person's body the size of the Lincoln Memorial, and beamed his image live onto the size of this cast. So he then, of course, jumped. Guantanamo detainees are not allowed to come to the United States. However, who owns the image after that? We can do that. So that was what it jumped across. This is a sketch for this, and just we're going to have time to look at what happened in the, this is what I was telling you before, the proposals for this with the Hatshepsut sort of statues. And we'll get to this in a second, but what I learned from this thing, which was, we did this in October at the Part2 Armory for 3 days. I have nothing to do with that, so I should be like just close your eyes. Is never underestimate the audience. Never. It was really an interesting thing for me because as an artist, there were actually quite a lot of threats involved in this piece as well. And when I talked to my English partners about this, they're going, "Oh, that guy, he's a blowhard. You know, he's not really going to do anything." And I was going, "Yeah, you're in London. We're in New York. People here use guns. Use guns all the time." I was terrified in the middle, you know, doing this thing. And it was only when it was over that I went, "Oh my God, it's so great that nobody said, you know, artist puts terrorists in armory." In fact, the opposite happened. So many people came, and most of them, so many musicians. Started with John Zorn, who came to install this Part2 Armory, which is a very large space. He said, "I just want to play here." Now, we also had, the sound part of this installation was a number of guitars with feedback. And this was a sound installation of Laurie, my husband, and who died a couple of years ago, and this was a kind of monument to his work. Some of his work called metal machine music, which is noise and stuff with incredible feedback, incredible harmonics. And so we wanted to fill this space with this. We also added surveillance audio to recapture in various places. So it was this sound, the ground of this piece was that sound. And so musicians thinking, well, I'm going to come over and play with this. Because it's the kind of thing where you just hear this thing, it's so complex. And so it's a field. So there's a huge amount of room to play. So he came over and played, and then people just kept coming over to play. And it was short. It was only a 3-day feed because it wasn't a thing about endurance. It was that he already endured, 8 years of torture. So he was like, and his back is bad. So but he sat there for 3 days, and all of these musicians came and played him. And there was a camera in the ceiling of the armory, so they knew that he could see on the delay. We had no audio feedback because they did not want anyone to come up and go, "You're a terrorist," So he had enough of that. He had a tsunami of anger coming for 15 years towards this guy. So I asked him, "Mohammed, what is your motivation for doing this?" And he said, "It's to help my brothers in Guantanamo." And I said, "Mohammed, this is an art thing." And I think, I can't say that it's going to help your brothers. And I can also say that a lot of Americans want terrorists to fry. There's a lot of that. Fear and anger. Justified. I mean, I'm not saying not to. Trouble is, there are about 1.5 terrorists in Guantanamo. So it wasn't, a lot of misinformation flying around. And I said, but, I can tell you that most Americans, when they hear your real story, when you hear how you were just pulled out, tortured, and then dumped in a country you don't know, nobody told you where you were, you were just dumped there. After all of those years of torture, I can tell you that is not going to be okay with most Americans. They're not going to think that's just okay. Just drag you in as a boy. And you're going to find, I bet, some American brothers who are going to step up to this and just kind of go, "Okay, what happened here?" So, but we live in so-called, information-rich culture. We do not. We do not. We don't know a lot of things, So anyway, it was fascinating for me to dive into that world and see some of that stuff, and also to present his story so that it was coherent and so that people could understand what had actually happened. It was a very deep program and deep legal work as well. And anyone wanted to find out any of the legal stuff, they had huge access to all the lawyer's records of all of his records, and all of what happens when an innocent person is grabbed like that. And anyway, so all of these American musicians are playing this stuff, and there's this huge statue, and he's like looking at him. He was so overwhelmed because there are all these people who had hated him so much, and they're all, going like, it was really something to see, to give people this kind of information, let them figure it out for themselves. I have a horror of political art. And when I see that stuff, I'm just like, I hate it when people tell me what to think. I think you don't even know me. Don't tell me what to think. But I do like making big open fields where people can kind of go, oh, what is that? Or, you know, something that's very, very open to interpretation, to analysis, to participation. I'm not into participation either, really. The other people just sit down and look at, you know, listen. But all of these people wanted to play. I was like, whoa, okay, play. You know, it was this beautiful, incredible field of sound that I've never heard sound like that. I've never heard anything like that. And people moving around, and some people decided to do ballet. I was like, what are you doing here? They just wanted to do something to express themselves. I was like, whoa, this is the audience has gotten out of control here, you know. So I'd never really done something that was that kind of thing. You know, I played in a lot of clubs as a kid, you know, and a lot of like crazy things went on with the audience, but not like this. Not like that. So relationship to the audience has always been really interesting to me. Well, on that subject, I want to mention one of the concerts that I did that was probably the most fun and most in terms of the audience unusual. I was giving a commencement speech at RISD, and I was feeling very bored, first of all. I'd be sitting in the green room waiting. Really hot, like the mortarboard hat, boring hot, and it was just taking forever. And also feeling really guilty because my job in my speech was going to be something like, hey, you know, don't worry about your student loan. And don't worry about getting a job in the music world or the art world. It'll just like that, you know. And I'm thinking, what a fraud, just get into this job of saying that to people. It's like, and be under the guise of being, you know, encouraging, you know, enthusiastic. Yo-Yo Ma was also there. He was getting an award as well. And I was talking to him, and I said, you know, I have this fantasy sometimes when I'm playing music, I look out and the whole audience is dogs. And he said, that's my fantasy too. Whoever gets to do that first one writes the other. Well, he's a more complicated touring schedule than I do. So, in any case, I got the chance to do this. I was asked to be the artistic director of the festival in Sydney. So I got to invite all my favorite playwrights and painters and sculptors and anyway, so musicians. And I said to the promoter also, you know, I'm going to also do a concert for dogs. And he didn't say like, concert for dogs? No, he just wrote down a concert. So we did this concert, and it was on the steps of the plaza of the Sydney Opera. We were one of the big sails right on the water. And we thought a few hundred dogs would show up. Thousands of dogs would show up, thousands. And also the vets, all the Aussie vets with their vans, you know, like, what did we do? Trouble here? They're all parked around. And it was, they immediately overflowed the little, medium, big demarcations we put on the plaza, and they were all on the steps to the top of the Sydney Opera. And it was a short show. Started out with we're going to use pitches where dogs are being here well, but then our dog trainer said, you don't want to necessarily do that. You don't know. They do hear well in that range, but do you really want, you know, what's going to happen when a lot of dogs start, you know. So we tucked it down a little bit. So anyway, it's a lot of Australian dogs who just want to rock. Just do. And they're like, And so we had a lot of good ones. And my favorite were the jewelers, the one in the front rows that are just like. And they didn't know whether they were there, you know. But so they didn't know how to behave. It's because it's not a dog run, you know. So they were there, and it began with an invocation for whales, which were sort of also up in that range, because you know, why do animals sing? To find each other, and whales in the ocean, and dogs to establish their GPS. I'm over here, I'm 2 miles back here, I'm over here, to make a map of where they are. It's very important to know keep that map. So we're all so polite, you know, during this concert, and at the end, I said, okay, dogs, you know, like, we're going to make a little sound. So start with the little ones, like, okay, medium, okay, big ones, for 5 minutes, these dogs just barked. This is sound. You have never heard a more beautiful, complicated, joyful sound. You know, it's just, this is just amazing. So anyway, that was the concert for dogs. And then, of course, you know, I thought, a lot of people started asking me, would you do a concert for dogs at our festival? But I thought, oh my God, I'm going to be the artist who does the concert for dogs. Artist, you know? So I said, no. I am going to do that, however, in January. The concert for dogs in New York, hope you can come, especially kind of dog. Now, Times Square has a series of things called Midnight Moments, and they project 3 minutes of film onto 37 screens in Times Square, which is, I don't know if you've seen it, but it's really pretty beautiful, you know, suddenly. So there's a section in the film that they did about the Tibetan afterlife, the bardo, and so we were selecting things at the end. With the sound, you'll hear the whole thing on headphones and radio stuff, because you can't compete with sound in Times Square. So it'll be that. So anyway, one night in the January 4th, we're also going to do a concert for dogs, because there's a section in the film about well, there's actually quite a undercurrent in the film about security, and the story that links this links to